Hello, everyone. Welcome to the When Do I Start High School Overall Timelines, the first talk of today in Camp's 2022 Online Study Abroad Conference titled Now Boarding College. So, special thanks to our sponsors, the Princeton Review Philippines, AUG Student Services, LIMS Review Center, Study International, AIM Review Philippines, and the International College of Liberal Arts at Yamanashi Gakuin University, Queen's University, Syracuse University, and our media partner, the Manila Bulletin.
To the country's history and development. The Manila Bulletin's strong commitment to delivering news and information to the Filipino nation is a testament to its role in nation building and empowering the Filipino people. The Manila Bulletin tells timely stories and timeless truths. And this is its story. At the beginning of the 20th century, at the heart of the sprawling New American Center in Southeast Asia, two Americans, Carson C. Taylor and H.G. Farvis, organized a shipping and commercial publication and called it the Daily Bulletin. It was renamed as the Manila Daily Bulletin in 1906. In 1957, the Manila Daily Bulletin became a Filipino-owned publication after it was acquired by Menzi and Company. Its publisher, Hans Menzi, laid the foundations of the broadsheet as the exponent of Philippine progress. In 1961, philanthropist and business tycoon Dr. Emilio T. Yap was elected director and vice chairman. Don Emilio was named chairman of the board in 1982. Under his leadership, the Manila Bulletin was ushered in a new era of journalism to become the nation's leading newspaper by investing in a and Dr. Emilio C. Yap III. The Manila Bulletin continues to chronicle the Philippines' current events and milestones. During the Japanese occupation in 1942, the Manila Daily Bulletin was forced to stop its operations, and in 1945, the Carriedo offices were reduced to rubble during the brutal Battle of Manila. When the late President Ferdinand Marcos declared martial law, the Manila Daily Bulletin ceased its operations once again, but after 2 months, it reopened and was renamed the Bulletin Today. In 1977, Bulletin Today upgraded its printing facilities, moved into its own and current location in Morales Street in Intramuros, and diversified its reach through the Philippine Panorama, its Sunday magazine, and Tempo and Balita, its tabloid publications. As readers are in search for more diversified and specialized content, the Manila Bulletin launched several magazines and digests, such as Agriculture, Animal Scene, and Going Places. It also acquired local and vernacular favorites, such as Liwayway, Hiligaynon, Bisaya, and Banawa. The Manila Bulletin transformed itself into a multi-platform media provider and newspaper reading experience by integrating special executions in its publications, including a 3D edition, NFC, QR codes, pop-ups, false covers, and belly bands. The Manila Bulletin also opened digital platforms such as a website, app, and eBay. Its website is one of the most visited and trusted Philippine news websites in the country. Its Facebook and Twitter accounts and YouTube channel are one of the most accessed in social media, engaging the young generation of news and information consumers. Today, the Manila Bulletin strives to make the nation be fully informed, at the same time uplifting the Filipino spirit through There's Good News Here. This is the Manila Bulletin, and the Manila Bulletin will continue to inform, inspire, empower, telling timely stories and timeless truths through this century and beyond.
So for this talk, we'll have Patrick on today to share a general overview of the college application process abroad and how your high school timeline can go. So to introduce Patrick, he is an IB graduate from the British School Manila. Patrick is a rising junior at the University of Hong Kong, pursuing an interdisciplinary major in science and technology studies and a minor in mathematics. From 2022 to 23, he will be a visiting international student at Yale University, pursuing history of science, medicine, and public health. Patrick has engaged in various content creation projects outside academics. He has served as a writer for Humans of HKU and speakers curator for TEDx HKU 2021. Last summer, he was also a digital editor and technical writer for a Hong Kong based internet startup. Since March 2022, he has worked as a technology intern at Bilby, a machine learning SaaS startup in Hong Kong, which uses data to decode China for foreign companies. So thank you so much, Patrick, for taking the time and effort to help Filipinos fulfill their study abroad dreams. Before we begin, please take note of the house rules for today's talk. So panelists will answer preset questions for around 20 to 30 minutes. And then a 30-minute interactive Q&A session will follow. So you may direct questions to Patrick. And please type your questions in the Q&A chat box at the bottom of your screen. And the moderator will select which questions the speaker will entertain based on the relevance to the topic. Feel free to take pictures and share your camp conference experience. So follow and tag us through our social media platforms. And with that, we can proceed to the preset questions that we have in store for Patrick. So, okay, let me stop screen sharing. Okay, first and foremost, okay, if you would like to introduce yourself, Patrick, please do so.
Okay, yeah, sure. Well, first of all, thank you, Nicole, for the amazing introduction. If as she hasn't said already, my name is Patrick. I study at the University of Hong Kong, and I'll be in Yale this coming academic year. Some of the things I love doing are swimming. I've started to enjoy going to spin classes lately. And I really like trying out new restaurants and taking pictures of food. And I'm really excited to share my experiences with you guys and hopefully help out, the college application process can be difficult, can be hard to navigate through on your own. And so I just hope that whatever I have to say is helpful for you guys in the future. So happy to be here.
Thank you so much for introducing yourself, Patrick. Okay, so we're gonna move to the questions now. Okay, so the first question is, when is the best time to begin applying to universities, and what is the first step that I should take?
Oh yeah. Well, I think that more important than knowing when the best time is, it's more important to know exactly what it is that you want. Um, for me, I actually applied to a total of um, 6 different countries, and obviously each country has a different set of timelines, different set of deadlines, and just an entirely different calendar of when exactly the college admission cycle actually is. So first of and foremost, the most important thing is to know exactly what you want and where you want to go. And from then on, use that to catapult you into figuring out the dates and figuring out when exactly things should happen. But as a general rule, everyone starts in senior year. Senior year is really when you have to focus on your applications and really start writing them, filling them out, and submitting them to universities asking for teachers recommendations, and all those important stuff. But first step you should take, strongly advise you, just do your research. Do your research and know what exactly it is that you want.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights, Patrick. That was very insightful. So I hope um, everyone can take that to heart and take that advice. So for the next question, okay, in what year levels did you do the major college application process? So testing, essay writing, etc.
Oh yeah. Yeah, thanks for the question, Nicole. For testing with SATs, at least, I did mine in year 12. But I didn't actually end up using them for the university I'm in right now because HKU, the University of Hong Kong, doesn't require SATs actually. Um, so but I would strongly suggest that your grade 11, so first year of senior high, first year of IB, should be the year where you do testing. But I know that a lot of camp mentees are from schools that might not do international baccalaureate or any other international standardized testing. So because of that, if that applies to you, you may want to do your standardized testing early if it's required, earlier if it's required by the school. If it's required by the school. So for example, a lot of schools outside of the US will require you to do SAT subject tests, or I know sometimes people do APs outside of class. And those will be pretty important in getting you to those schools because outside the US, they're pretty testing oriented. So something you're probably going to want to consider if you're not doing an international curriculum is research a little more on what tests you're going to actually need. Like, is it going to be more APs, SAT subject tests? And try and get to do those early because you don't really want to you don't want to do them later on. In terms of essay writing, there's I would say senior year, just during the time that you apply. But there will be some parts of the world where the essay questions don't change. So that means you could really just start whenever you want and whenever you're sure of what it is that you want to do. But the college application process is it's a natural one. It flows. It flows smoothly, and essay writing is part of that. Just make sure you're on top of it and on top of the deadlines. And it's another thing that's not listed here but is required is teacher recommendations, and that's something that's really important. Those you'd probably ask for at the start of senior year, but you probably want to think about who it is you want to paint a picture of what type of student you are, like which teachers that you've worked with, who do you have the best relationship with, who can really vouch for you as a student and you as a person. Yeah.
All right, so we can proceed to the next question. So um, this question is, what's one thing you wish you had done earlier in the college application process?
Yeah. Okay. So as I said, I applied to 6 different countries for university. US, United Kingdom, Japan, Hong Kong, Singapore, and obviously the Philippines as well. And part of the reason was because I was really unsure of where I wanted to go. The world was crazy. The world is still crazy. But something that I really strongly advise everyone to do is know exactly what it is that you want. I think I spent way too much time, way too much brain work, and I wasted all of that in um, thinking too hard on where it is that I might go, what it is that I might be doing in the next year, and thinking and imagining what life might be like. I think just I strongly suggest be sure of it. Have an honest conversation with your parents on what it is you want and what it is you want to do and what what they can afford, what is right for them, what they're comfortable with. Be set on something and don't spend too much time just putting unnecessary brain work into it. Spend that extra time on, doing things that you love, spending time with family. I mean, if you're going abroad, you won't see them for a while. And just most importantly, making your application great instead of just thinking about the future too much. And also, maybe I would have done essays a little bit earlier. Um, I didn't procrastinate, I'll say that, but it's still a fun creative writing process, even though some of them can be tricky and challenging, and the time really helps you a lot. So, yeah.
Right. So speaking of essays, since you wish that you could have started earlier, the next question is when do you recommend that we start writing essays?
So really just as soon as the application's open, as soon as you've narrowed down where it is that you want to go to and where it is that you want to apply, you'll have the essay, you'll have the questions right in front of you, and just see them and get started on them. Get started on them and get those creative juices flowing, and I'll write a killer essay that really shows what type of person you are.
Right. So for the next question is when do you recommend taking standardized tests for the first time?
Yeah. Well, so for me, because I was only doing the SAT with the essay test, I did it during March of grade 11, March of my first year of senior high. Um, and honestly, that was a bit late. I didn't have enough time. I wasn't happy with the score I got. I didn't have enough time to take it for a second time. I didn't have the time to revise to take it for a second time, let alone that. So I would have strongly recommended taking it. In my case, I would have liked to have taken it in October, but I know that the slots for those can get filled up pretty quick. But as I said, if you're from a school that doesn't really do international curriculums or international standardized tests, you may want to do them. You may actually want to do them a little bit earlier to get that off your shoulders. Though I can't exactly speak for what that's like. It's just my suggestion.
All right. Thank you for that insight. So for the next question, you did mention that you've applied to multiple countries. So in your experience, how much did applying to college abroad cost?
It was yeah. It's not exactly cheap. It's not necessarily cheap, especially for U.S. schools. Specifically for U.S. schools, those will cost anywhere between 50 and 100 US dollars per application. Um, so the US can be quite expensive, but other countries like say United Kingdom, it's 5 schools and you pay, I think if I recall correctly, it's like £60. Um, but and then schools in Asia, uh, they'll be cheaper. They'll be cheaper. Like for example, I think for the schools in Japan I applied to, it was must have been the equivalent of uh okay, 2,000 pesos, which is 2,000 pesos, which it or 1,000 pesos, which is not exactly that much cheaper, but it's still not as expensive. And that's just the application fees. If you want to take um if you're doing extra tutoring for SATs and you're getting extra essay help, it's not, I mean, those paid services are not something I personally would recommend, but if you choose to do those, then that would cost, that would add to your costs of applying abroad to college. But as I said, really boils down to knowing where you want to go. So you won't have to spend application fees on places you wouldn't actually accept offers for.
Alright, so we're gonna move to the next question. So, what should I do to prepare for my application as a grade 9 student?
Yeah, I think this is a really great question. Well, good on this. I know that these are, um, I know that these are pre-made questions, but if this question sort of applies to you as a grade 9 student, I guess good on you for thinking ahead, um, wanting, thinking ahead, planning ahead, because it is made to become a difficult process. So I commend you on that. But advice that I'd give you is get involved in the things that you love. You know, take, if it's available to you, take elective classes that you love. Um, get involved in student organizations that you're really passionate in, or start one yourself. That's pretty popular nowadays too. Everyone, I feel that everyone really tries to fit a certain mold when it comes to this process. Like a lot of people will say like, oh, I really want to do like math competitions, science competitions, all that, writing competitions, um, go insane on that, but they lose sense of their unique self and their unique individual character that colleges really want to see. I think what's more important is to be the best, absolute best version of your unique self. Find exactly what it is, find your niche, find your strength, really hone into that and dive into that. Be the best. Yeah, be the best person, be the best you yourself can be. Be the best that you can be, which another person can't. And that process that will really give you a amazing character that anyone, not just a college admissions, um, not just a college admissions team, will be able to appreciate. So just focus on yourself, bring it outside. You don't need to keep it within the whole, the whole discourse of, college applications. Take it outside of that. Take a step back, take it outside of that. Just be the best version of your unique self. That's the most important for me.
All right, thank you for sharing those insights. So, for the next question, how can I prepare for college admissions interviews during high school?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think that's a really important question too. And some things that people really I mean, obviously it'll depend on where you're applying, but this is especially the case for US schools or more holistic, or places where interviews are more holistic. Like my program in HKU was sort of like that. Try and be social, get used to talking to people, get used to having conversations, meet people, talk about important things, be interested in who it is you're talking to. And something pretty important is talk to titos and titas when your parents invite them over, talk about things that are happening, like, oh, like, Tito, you hear about been happening in Bitcoin lately? I don't know. Just an example. Have conversations with family members that are around your age or older. A lot of these interviews are intelligent discussions, but they're still casual in the sense that you want to get to know who you're talking to, and they want to get to know you. So yeah, talk to family members. I think that's something that we underestimate a lot. And then you'll get used to talking to alumni in these interviews. You get used to talking to people who are, I don't know, like your titos and titas are professionals, they're working hard and doing jobs that are pretty oftentimes pretty important. Talk to them about things that are happening, or even talk to your parents. Talk to your parents about important things, have intellectual conversations with them. They the alumni interviewers who will be interviewing you, especially for US colleges, are normal people with jobs just like the people you see every single day. So and they can tell when the flow of the conversation isn't natural. And that's something that you probably have to get used to first. So just talk to the people around you. Talk to people who are older than you. Please don't stay here now. Sorry. So people entered the room. I have some younger siblings who entered the room. I hope that sorry for the bother, but so yeah, that's my main advice for US schools. But when it comes to places where the interview is more academic, you'd probably have to, that'll still help. That'll still help. I really gotta say that'll still help. But but you'll probably want to prepare a little bit more on an interview that's more kind of job oriented. That's the type of interview that you have when you're trying to enter a firm. So but I can't stress enough, know what's happening around the world and talk to people about it. Yeah.
Likes that. So for the next questions, it's a bit contextual, so I'll read the situation. So taking a gap year isn't considered to be common in the Philippines. So would you consider taking a gap year to be beneficial in the long run? And what are things I should consider when thinking about taking a gap year?
Mm. So yeah, gap years are interesting. Gap years are interesting. I think that I've this is said a lot, but I really can't stress how important it is. You really have to know what it is you're gonna be doing in your gap year. That's something that's insanely important. I There are people who've taken gap years that haven't used them well, and which is really unfortunate because that's a lot of time. But there are people who've um, taken that year to really do important work and find things that they love and know exactly it is that they want from not just know exactly it is that they want from not just college but life. Um, for example, I had a friend, one of my closest friends in Hong Kong. She took a gap year before studying in the UK, and she did some really interesting environmental policy research at a nonprofit think tank. And from then, she really honed into what it is that she loved, the skills that she really gained new skills from her job, and she just came out of the gap year with a stronger passion on what it is that she wanted to do in the future, and who she wanted to be as a person. And so I think gap years gap years can be really good, but most important the most important thing to consider is the fact that it's a long time and you need to know exactly what you're going to be doing for those 12 extra months you have outside of school. You need to take a lot of thought into this and make sure that the time you spend is put to good use.
All right. So for the last of the preset questions, so what advice would you give to grade 11 and 12 students who feel like they started too late? What can they do to make up for the late start?
What I'd say is, try not to worry. There are always options, more than you might think. Um, and do your research, it might be that you have to broaden the scope of where exactly you're applying to, and that's perfectly fine. Countries like um, some universities, in Japan, uh, are pretty late, take admissions really late. Australia is you only apply to 6 months, like a few months after you graduate from high school. Um, there are schools in the US that do rolling admissions and are less strict with testing requirements. I think if I recall correctly, schools in the Netherlands are start start their admissions process pretty late as well. Um, so there are always going to be options. You don't have to be too scared. And just I guess widen the scope of and it's never too late to start. You know, if if uh deadlines have passed, then well that's all right. Um, just move on and find another place that works great for both you and your family. Um, so there's always just do your research, and that's mostly aimed towards grade 12 students. But grade 11 students, don't worry, grade 11 is not too late. It's good that you do your research now, but it's good that you spent the first 2 years of high school, enjoying enjoying being a high schooler, really. So grade 11, grade 11 students, it's not too late. Don't worry too much, but start your research. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much for sharing your insights and experiences with us, Patrick. So we're really grateful to you for telling us so much about the college application process and your high school timelines. So now we'll be moving on to our question and answer portion. So for all our attendees here, feel free to start asking in the Q&A. So we have like about 12 questions and still a lot of time. So I'm gonna read these and you can answer. So for the first question, someone said, "Hi, what if I decided late that I want to study abroad? Should I take a gap year or do a 1 year of uni in the Philippines and then transfer?"
Mm. That is a pretty good question. And I think it really depends on the context of where you're coming from. So if you're if if you know exactly what it is that you want to do in your gap year, you have it meticulously planned, you have a really good idea of the type of work you'll be doing for a year that you'll spend in the Philippines, then yeah, by all means, take a gap year. It gives you extra time to fill out applications as well and ask for recommendations. Heck, you can even ask the person you're working with for a recommendation, as far as I'm aware. Um, but you could also, yeah, as you said, you could also do 1 year of university in the Philippines and then transfer. Though I would say that that can be pretty difficult, just because just because the way the collegiate college system in the Philippines works is that credits might not exactly transfer one to one, and that's going to be pretty difficult. That if your intention is to transfer, you may want to do a little bit more research on credit equivalencies in the Philippines, because if your goal in studying in the Philippines for 1 year and then transferring is to have those credits transfer, you might come to realize that those credits don't actually transfer. And that's something to consider. So, but either op and I've not heard of transferring can be difficult. Let's be honest. I'll be honest. It might seem like an easier way of getting in, but that's really not true. But really just try to do your research, ask and talk to ask people who transferred before. I know Camp did a webinar on that. So talk to those people, especially those that have transferred from the Philippines, and see what that's like. But yeah, either options are doable. You just have to really consider things, do your research, know exactly what it is that you want to do, and be certain of it.
All right, so we're gonna move to the next scenario or question. So someone said, I'm a high school senior right now and I haven't taken the SAT yet and I haven't prepared at all. Should I still take it knowing that most schools are test optional?
So yeah, good question. I think it really depends on the type of curriculum that your school's doing. Because from what I've heard, please take this with a grain of salt. From what I've heard, and I would guess as well that if your high school does standardized tests, the college can look at those as a metric for how well you perform as a student. But if you don't do standardized tests, that can be a little bit more difficult. So what I would suggest is, depending on the school that you're from, if you have standardized tests, maybe you don't need them. But if your school doesn't have, you might have to take them, and just take it for the sake of it. If you're happy with it, submit it. If you're not, then I can't say you didn't try. I know it's a lot of time spent on it, but it is worth a shot if it will give the extra leg up your application.
All right, so for the next question, I believe you can put some important links in like the chat or reply to the person, but they asked, where can I inquire if I want to study for SAT examinations?
Ooh, okay, so there's an SAT tutoring thing online. There's an online SAT tutoring thing. I forgot the name. I wonder if you know the name of it, Nicole. Let me try search it.
Khan Academy?
Yeah, yeah, I think it's Khan Academy. That they're pretty helpful. That's something that you might want to check out. I'll just type it down for you. For everyone to see. Khan Academy. And also just the SAT books and the SAT practice tests that you can find online from College Board. So just those.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing your insights on that. I also used to use Khan Academy for like my math equations and just like reviewing in general for school. So it was really helpful. So yes, Khan Academy.
Even for me in college, it's still helpful with some of the math that I take.
That's interesting. I'm not very keen on math, but yes, very fun. So for the next question, okay. Next question is, do you recommend getting an external college counselor?
I'll be honest, I really don't. I think, I don't know if this is a controversial opinion, but if it is, so be it. I think that they're not a good use of money or time. The beautiful thing about the college application process is that outside of outside of the goals of trying to get into certain places, certain schools, and trying to start a new life in another country. The goal is that a great thing about it is that you get to discover who you are. You get to reflect on, hey, what are the life experiences that have shaped me? Who am I as a person? Who do I want to be as a person? What sort of insights do I have? What's unique and special about me? Because we all have that. And I feel like having a college counselor can really take away from that. It should be this process um, is just to me just as much about uh, self-reflection and self-awareness as it is about getting into great schools. So just I think for basic things like uh, deadlines and all that, sure you can ask for help, but at the same time you can do research. You can research on that yourself. But in terms of essay writing and extracurriculars and choosing what classes and out of school activities that you want to do, um, rely on yourself, do a lot of self-reflection, think really hard about who you are as a person, what's unique about me, um, how can I be the best version of myself, and how can I portray this on my college application.
All right. So for the next question, so does it cost a lot of money to work on documents we need to submit on Common App or CSS profile?
Mm, um, uh, um, Work on documents you need to submit for Common App. I would. I'm not entirely sure which documents you need to submit on Common App now, other than the recommendations. But I think that all of it should be included in the Common App. But I didn't submit the CSS profile because I didn't think I'd qualify for aid, and I didn't apply to too many schools in the US anyway. So I'm sorry, I don't know. I wouldn't know too much about the financial aid part of your question, but I think generally for extra documents that you want to submit should be included in the common application. Oh, and I just remembered, yeah, when you need to send your SAT test to schools, you have to pay the College Board, which is really unfortunate. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money, but there's not much that can be done about that, sadly. Like I really I don't like the fact that that has to happen, but you'll need to pay for the common app fee, the application fees, and the fees for sending the test scores. And same goes if you do like IB or any other curriculum.
Okay, so I think Q, like our camp president, can also like answer. So yes, Q can also answer questions here. But yes, okay. So moving on to the next question. So some universities have spring intakes. Would you suggest applying there if I feel like I'm a bit late?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um, I don't know which schools exactly have spring intakes other than Australia, but 1000%. If you're happy with the schools that you'd be applying to in those cases, then yeah, definitely. That's something you should do. That's something you should do.
Okay, for the next question, how did you juggle doing so many applications for different countries?
Oh yeah. Yeah, my counselors, my high school counselors told me, oh, you're I was doing a bit too much, asking for a bit too many recommendations. But the good thing was that schools have vastly different timelines. So having to do one country for 1 or 2 countries for the first few months and then the others for the next, um, that made it a lot easier. So it is possible. It is possible. Don't I wasn't crazy with time. I definitely wasn't crazy with time management back in high school, but also I didn't apply to too many schools in each of the countries. I'd say the most I did was probably, yeah, the most I did in each country was two. Yeah. I had, except for the UK because it's 5 in 1 application, but 2 in the US, 2 in Hong Kong, 2 in Japan, 1 in Singapore, and 2 in the Philippines. So that made things, in fact, I might have possibly had an easier time with applying to college than a lot of other people who say applied to 10 US schools. So yeah.
Okay, so for the next question, would you recommend applying to many schools or focus on a fewer number?
Hmm. Ooh, yeah, this is a good one. This is a good question. Um, I would say that in an ideal world, focus on a fewer number. As much as you can, focus on a fewer number. Because, you'll find that when you get offers that even though you applied to these places, you might not actually want to take them, or you just applied for the sake of it. So as much as possible, I would say focus on a fewer number, get those like to be top notch and execute those really well. But if you have, but I mean, it was the case for me, like there will be times when you're unsure of what the future might look for you. So, and you might have to apply to more, and that's fine as well. But I would hope, like for the sake of your workload, that you apply to a fewer number of schools. Yeah.
Okay, so for the next question, someone asked, how did you keep track of all the application deadlines? So like if you use like Google Sheets, Notion, or any other application.
Yeah, I didn't use anything special actually. I just used like Google. I don't know if you know Google Keep, just like a pretty basic notes app, and then I put the deadlines there. In fact, like, to this day, I still use that for all my deadlines. I use that back in high school. I use it now. A list of check boxes for every single deadline I have, school related, outside of school related, and yeah. So that was really helpful for me. But Notion and Google Sheets are really great resources too. Um, I I do think that want to reiterate what Nicole suggested, that yeah, they're great resources and they're definitely resources that you should use.
Okay, so for the next question, what are your tips for students who are currently finding schools? How can we crash out choices?
Crash out crash out choices. Is that, do you mean like, is
I
that like
think it's
cross
like
out?
elimination or like
Oh,
narrowing off.
eliminate. Okay. Um, so I think a good way to start eliminating schools is hmm, yeah. The most remember that a lot of the times it will, for most of us that study abroad, it is our parents who support us and have the final say of the decision. Um, so my tips for crashing out choices, the biggest factor would probably be what your parents want. So have a conversation with them. Hey, can I apply here? Can I apply to this country? Try convince them if on the things that you want a bit more. And but also if they say no, then and chances are they'll say no to many schools, then that's a really, really quick way to crash out choices. And another factor that you'll want to consider is the type of program you want to study, especially. Um, that's something I should have taken into account a little bit more. When I was applying to schools in Japan, a lot of the courses that I was applying to were Japanese studies, and they were, and I got into a great program, but and it was nice to say that I'm accepted, but I mean, I didn't want to study Japanese studies for 4 years. And lastly, if you got to check if you meet subject requirements, especially the case for schools outside the US. Do you meet the subject requirements for the program of the school you want to apply to? And if you don't, and there's no alternative programs that you can apply to, then don't waste your time on applying. That was the case for another school I applied to in Japan called Waseda. I applied to their science faculty without having to, because I did IB without having taken high level math, and I basically just wasted an application for applying there. So really make sure that you're meeting the subject requirements that they have.
All right, so we have like about 10 more questions left, and we might possibly extend for a little. Is that okay with you, Patrick?
Yeah, that's fine with me. That's fine with me.
Okay. So for the next question, as a senior, how do you juggle your academic workload, extracurricular activities, and college applications?
Yeah, this is this is a very tough but important question. I'll be honest with you. I'm not one to. I like planning, but I'm not one to meticulously plan my weeks like that. So this might not be the answer that you want, but it's the answer that me and a lot of my friends and my brother who just finished the college application process recently might have, is that you won't know until you do. Honestly, you won't know until you do, and you'll find that you might actually have more time to do things than you did. So you won't know until you do. Senior year is pretty difficult, I'll say. It'll be challenging. Be prepared to be challenged time-wise. You'll really be stretched thin for every single thing that it is that you're doing. Be ready for that, but you really won't know until it actually happens. But yeah, so, and good luck, good luck. I'm guessing the person asking that is an incoming senior. So yeah.
All right, so for the next question, do you have any advice for students that don't know which specific course to take?
Ooh, yeah. So I would say there are parts of the world where college curriculums are more liberal arts focused. So that's just the US. Unfortunately, there are parts of the world where you apply to a degree program that has multiple subjects. So you have a general idea of what field that is that you're interested in, but you're not yet sure of what specific department you want to be taking most of your courses in. Many parts of the world are like that. For example, Hong Kong, we have my university, HKU, we have a Bachelor of Arts program that where you only choose to major in a humanities field later on. We have a same thing for a science program, an engineering program, a social sciences program. And then for all the programs like mine where you come in with a predefined major, there's room to do a double major or minor. So you have flexibility with that. I know that parts of the world, like I know that Australia has degree programs like that where you apply to a bachelor's degree that's under a specific field and then you specialize later on. I know a lot of schools in Australia work like that. I know from the top of my head, what else? Netherlands, France, Canada, yeah, and Singapore too. So, um, if there are schools that are very accommodating uh, to interests like those, to people like you, and which is how it should be, because I mean, what not many 18-year-olds know what they want to do for the rest of their lives, right? And you can't really expect that from them. But if you want to go to places like the UK where you're already set straight into a single degree program, I would say read up on subjects that you're possibly interested in. You know, buy nonfiction books. Um, Try and see what your interests are. Do you like reading about politics? Do you like reading about science, medicine, public health, economics? Do you like reading classical literature? Just read. Read actually is my biggest advice. And the last thing I wanted to say about that, yeah. Oh, think about which extracurriculars you enjoyed, how those translate to specific subjects. For example, I did a lot of MUN. So a lot of the degrees I applied to were quite social science oriented. And also think about the classes you enjoy taking in high school.
All right. So, for the next question, how early should we start researching about universities?
Hmm. I mean, at any point in time, as I said, um, the earlier the better. I can't stress this enough. I've said this earlier in the pre-set questions. The earlier, although the earlier the better, and do your research and do it well. But once you do your research, have a stand firmly on what it is that you want, where it is that you want to go, where it is that you want to apply, and stop there. The only time you should be doing more research is if new programs that you might have overlooked come up, or new countries come up. But once you cover an entire school, once you cover an entire country or an entire school, once you've looked at the website, like once you looked at the website in depth, like thrice already, yeah, don't look at it anymore. If you want to do more research, broaden it out, I guess. But yeah. Do it whenever you want, earlier the better. Do it well, but once you're done, don't do it anymore.
Okay, so we're down to like our last, I think, 3 questions. So, next question is, what factors were you considering while thinking about which country to go to?
Mm. So a lot of it was actually like family affinity, where my parents are comfortable sending me to university, and also like where I saw myself in the future. I Back in senior year, I really wanted to start like a career in Asia. I was really passionate about. I really read a lot about Chinese history, Chinese politics, and politics of just the region of East Asia in general. So I had a really strong regional interest in Asia, so that's why I applied to Hong Kong, Singapore, and Japan. Um, and that also was reinforced by the fact that my parents had a stronger affinity towards Asia. My dad had worked in Hong Kong. My uncle lives in Singapore with his family, and My dad got his first job in Japan, and so did and my grandfathers on both sides worked there for a significant chunk of their 30s. So for me, what really I had to consider was my family's preferences. And I'm thankful that that sort of aligned to where I saw myself and where I wanted to be for the next couple of years. Um, I think those two things are pretty important.
Okay, so for the next question, does a recommendation letter from teachers need to be specific on where the university that student is targeting? But how can we apply for different universities? And are we going to ask again for that letter?
Hmm. Oh yeah, that's okay. That's a good question. Um, I think that I think that it depends on the school that you're going to. But generally, if your school is organized enough, like I'm thankful that mine was, I'm thankful that BSM was. Every single school that you go to, every single school that you're applying for. Oh, is my internet? Can you guys
I
hear me
think
all right?
I think it was
I'm just getting messages that my internet is.
yeah. I don't know about mine, but yes. I think we were lagging a little.
Oh no. Oh wait, sorry.
It's okay.
Wait, let me know. Let me know when properly, like without the lag.
Okay, I think you're good. I think everything's
Okay, am
fine.
I good?
Yes.
Am I good now? Okay, okay. I'm just thankful that this happened. This did not happen earlier. But anyways, so yeah, recommendation for a letter from teachers. Generally, you only need one per country that you're applying to. So, um, I mean, from each teacher is what I mean. Um, so for you'll get if you're applying to the US, for all the schools that you apply to the US, you'll have one recommendation. And the same goes for UK and every Canada, Singapore, Hong Kong, every other country that you'll be applying to. And also, trust your teachers because they don't want to put an insane amount of work on every single like to be completely honest, they have other recommendations, so right? They don't want to put an insane amount of work on every single letter that they different letters for different countries. Chances are they'll be pretty similar. So I know for a fact that my recommendation letters for um uh Hong Kong and uh the UK were quite similar. Just because the format was like that. And even if they're not, teachers will generally reuse what they've said because they've already mentioned the best things about you in the recommendation letters that they've already written. So trust your teachers, but as a general rule, how it works is each teacher writes one per country, but those will probably be the same or crossover in terms of content.
All right. So for the last question, how do you avoid burnout while applying to college?
Yeah. So I'm really lucky that I have a really great support group in my family. I really rely on them a lot um, to support me emotionally. Um, it was a difficult process actually. Like I like dealing with disappointment. I'll be completely honest. There are times where I cried, like during senior year in front of my parents, just with like the amount of work I was doing and not meeting the expectations that I had for myself. Um, So find people who will be able to support you, find people who will be able to help you emotionally, because it is a really difficult time. And but know that it doesn't last forever, and a lot of everyone, and we're all going through this together. Every senior around the world who's applying to college, all the people who've applied to become mentees uh, for camp, you guys are going through this together, and you have the support of your mentors who will be helping you throughout the way, who are here to listen, who are here to talk. So find a great support group. Um, I'm lucky enough that it's quite close to me, but just find people you can trust to really help you through this difficult time. That's the advice that I have for you.
All right, so that was it for our Q&A portion and for this panel. So I'm sure you all still have a lot of questions, but yeah, we kind of extended a bit. So if ever you guys want to contact Patrick, you can leave your like mode of contact or socials in the chat box if that's
Yeah, for
possible.
sure, for sure. Like, his Instagram is, and my email is, yeah. So thank you guys for coming. Thank you guys for coming.
All right.
Um,
Yeah. Thank you so much,
uh,
Patrick. Oh, yes.
oh no,
No,
you go ahead, you
no,
go ahead,
no,
you go ahead.
no, no, you can say like
Oh no,
anything.
yeah, no, just thanks so much, Nicole, thanks so much. I don't know if Santi's here. Thanks so much, Santi, for inviting me to talk. I really hope that the advice that I gave was helpful. Good luck to all the mentees and the mentors of camp. Yeah, and good luck on this process. Good luck on this process. I wish everyone the best of luck.
All right. So thank you so much again to our speaker, Patrick, and to our participants for being able to attend the session. We hope everyone has learned something new. I know I did. And we'll see you at our next event. So
Yeah.
bye, everyone.
Bye,
Thank
everyone. Bye.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.